ride. And that is why his cavalier behavior was reflected when he blamed Bharat just on the basis of intel, without any credible proof. That the Canadian Prime Minister is heavily influenced by K elements is yet again proven with the state machinery's alleged open support to these K extremist groups. The recalled Indian envoy to Canada, Sanjay Verma, named as a person of interest in Hardeep Nijjar's killing, had called out Canada for backstabbing him and claiming that these extremists were deep assets of the Canadian intelligence or the CSIS. What has transpired in Canada is a case in point on how the law agencies have given, Canadian law agencies and Canadian authorities have given these anti-Bharat elements, these secessionist elements, a free run. Videos surfaced online showing law enforcement agencies clashing with temple goers, while Canadian leaders, including the Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, criticized the attack. They openly remained mum on naming the perpetrators. None of them named these K goons, these K extremists. In fact, the attempt was to whitewash the attackers. Now, have a look at some of these pictures. Anti-Bharat slogans raised outside the Brampton temple in Canada, and this incident is from the 2nd of November. And the kind of language that is used, expletives were used, very, very unparliamentary language against Bharat, its leaders, its people. The cops were at the temple to restore order following altercations between these K extremists and members of the local Canadian Hindu community. But soon they were seen shielding these goons rather than arresting them. The temple was hosting a consular camp co-organized by the High Commission of Bharat. When the incident occurred, a mob carrying flags associated with these K groups and their entire agenda, wielding sticks, lathis, disrupted the event, targeted members of the Canadian Hindu community, including women and children. The next set of visuals, Canadian police high-handedness and bias all but clear. The officers started attacking the devotees, those who were standing there, standing up to these K extremists. And the K goons who came to harass the temple goers, and there is video evidence that shows that it was these K goons who first used physical force and assault. None of them were arrested. The cops are actually pushing these people back despite their voiced protest, saying that you must act against them. Cops are seen targeting the Canadian Hindus and the people who are at the temple and shielding these K protesters. A red line has been crossed by these Canadian K extremists. That's what Chandra Arya has said in a post. He is sitting MP in Canada. The attack by these Khalistanis on Hindu Canadian devotees inside the premises of the Hindu Sabha temple in Brampton shows how deep and brazen has this Khalistani violent extremism become in Canada. I begin to feel that there is a small grain of truth in the reports that in addition to Canadian political apparatus, Khalistanis have effectively infiltrated into our law enforcement agencies, unquote. Visuals show Canada police dragging and detaining Hindu devotees outside the Lakshmi Narayan temple in Surrey. Once again, the K goons who actually caused the assault and the attacks there have been let free. Not a single one of these extremists has been arrested. So far, ladies and gentlemen, here on CNN News 18, we'll put out the data that since January 2022, none of the acts of vandalism on Hindu temples, Hindu institutions across Canada have been punished. None of the perpetrators who have committed arson, vandalism, break-in and also violence have been arrested so far. Canada police used force and assaulted members of the crowd outside the Hindu Sabha temple in Brampton, some of whom were waving the Bharatiya flag. To the extent that the Canadian police and Canadian authorities were trying to snatch away the Khalistan flags from some of these protesters, saying that you cannot touch this flag. This is the same lot that in the past has allowed these K goons to play football and also to burn our flag and insult it, and stop those who have said that no, you cannot insult the tricolour, the national flag of a nation. The MEA on Monday condemned the violence perpetrated by the extremists and separatists at the Hindu Sabha temple in Brampton. In a statement, the MEA spokesperson Randeep Jaiswal demanded from the Canadian government that those indulging in violence must be prosecuted. But the fact of the matter is, ladies and gentlemen, none of these goons have been arrested so far. The Canadian cops, the Canadian authorities, in fact, now face an allegation that one of their off-duty officials was part of these K extremists. He was seen outside and he's been identified and he's been marked. So far, the confirmation or denial from the Canadian authorities has not yet come. That's why we are not putting out those pictures. But it's going viral on social media, the claims, and this is Canadian journalists who are making this allegation. Canadian journalists saying that off-duty police personnel were part of these K-goons in this violence and this disruption. Now, if you divide, you will be divided. Batoge to katoge. This slogan echoing in Canada now. The priest there of the Hindu Sabha temple telling Hindus, we need to unite against these extremists, these goons. We have got no fight or no bone to pick with anybody. But if they try and attack us and if they try and misbehave with us, we have to teach them a lesson, and we need to unite not for ourselves but for the coming generations, because this load of disinformation and this violent vitriolic agenda should be stemmed. It should stop. Sanatan and Sikhi go hand in hand. Sikhi is an offshoot of Sanatan and it finds its roots in Sanatan, and this is a reality that everybody must know. That's the message there, and we should fight back. We should not take this kind of gundagardi lying down. Meanwhile, CNN News 18 gets you yet another exclusive. Intel agencies believe that the attacks were a deliberate measure or a deliberate move during the Deepavali festival. One, and secondly, the fact that these were consular agendas to try and provide pension certificates to Canadian Hindus and Canadian Indo-Canadians. And large number of them were Sikhs, so that they can continue to receive their pension. And this was deliberate attempt to disrupt. Meanwhile, the two temples in Canada came under attack on the same day. The Lakshmi Narayan Mandir in Surrey and a Hindu temple in Brampton. They were targeted. All these hate crimes have happened, and there has been no probe conclusively to catch and nab the perpetrators and punish them since 2022, like I was saying earlier. Since January 2022, there have been at least 10 incidents of vandalism, arson or violence against Hindu temples in Canada since 2022. In fact, if you just give me 30 seconds, I want to read out this entire laundry list, ladies. It's so many instances that the Trudeau administration has just overlooked. They have not done anything so far. Now, let me read it out. January 2022, vandalism at the Hindu temple in Toronto. April 2022, graffiti attack at a Hindu temple in Brampton. June 2022, arson at a Hindu temple in Hamilton. 2023, January 2023, vandalism at a Hindu temple in Windsor. Mississauga, March 2023, graffiti attack at a Hindu temple. Surrey, British Columbia, June 2023, break-in at a Hindu temple. 2024, vandalism at the BAPS Swaminarayan Mandir in Edmonton in July. September 2024, attack on the Hindu Sabha Mandir in Brampton. October 2024, vandalism at the Hindu temple in Calgary. And November 3rd, 2024, clash at the Hindu Sabha Mandir, and of course the Mandir in Surrey, the Lakshmi Narayan Mandir in Surrey. So multiple instances that have happened. Now Hindu Sikh groups are now coming together. They are coming together against this K extremist agenda in Vancouver. 36 organizations passing a resolution against K agenda in Vancouver. Almost 1,000 Hindu and Sikh group members participated and passed a resolution to get rid of Khalistanis from these gurdwaras, which they claimed formed only 3 to 4% of the total Canadian Sikh population. Let's go across to our guests to get more understanding. Is it time to unite in this fight? Because this is an attack in Canada on Bharat. Dr. Vijay Chauthaiwale, in charge of the Foreign Affairs Department of the BJP with us. Puneet Sahni, activist. Manish Puri of VHP Canada spokesperson. Canada VHP spokesperson is with us. So Canada VHP is a separate organization altogether, does not have anything to do with the VHP in Bharat. I just would like to clarify that. But Dr. Vijay Chauthaiwale, namaste. And namaste to Manish and Puneet. Namaste. I'm going to start with you, Dr. Chauthaiwale. I want to ask you, sir. This is a growing litany of incidents. I've just put out all the details here on the show. Why is this being allowed? Have you been able to speak with members there? What's actually going on, sir?
Anand, thanks for inviting me here. For last several days, I am in continuous conversation with the diaspora members in Canada, and they were knowing that something big might happen because of the atmosphere of intimidation that was growing in last 3 years, as you have chronicled in your opening remarks. The question here is that why the government, the police, who were fully aware of the sinister designs of K elements, prevented and did not make any attempt to prevent such attacks. It shows that they are not only mute spectators of this violence, but also they were equally responsible for this attack on Hindu community. So even though it is highly deplorable, in fact I am not very surprised by the level at which the Khalistani elements have gone far, and as you have entitled, they have literally crossed red line not by few inches but by several miles.
But what is encouraging them, Dr. Chothaiwale? What is encouraging them? इनके पीछे कौन खड़ा है? Who are these
Because
elements?
they don't fear the law. Though they don't fear the law, in fact they know that the Canadian establishment, the government, will only protect them, and even if they do something, it will be only a superficial action, and they have absolutely no fear of the police and the government.
But a lot of them have gone from here, isn't it? From Bharat, one generation before or now. How is it that they are allowed to perpetrate this fallacy and this entire falsitude? In fact, it's a load of bull dash 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 that Sanatan and Sikhi are different, and that Sikhi and Sanatan have got no connection with each other. How are they allowed to push this? There are elected councillors who are talking like that.
Absolutely. See, for many generations, Hindus and Sikhs have stayed together, they work together with a very good relations and also brotherhood. But the extremist Khalistani elements have now dominated the narrative, and with the tacit support of the Trudeau government has also helped them, emboldened them to influence the overall population in that country. I still believe that the majority of the Sikh community, overwhelming majority of the Sikh community in Canada, is not pro-Khalistan. They are very keen to have brotherly relations with their Hindu brothers, which has been also exemplified by the statement by Hindu Sikh community organization joint statement, which you have also quoted. But that is the silent majority. Unfortunately, the K elements are much more vocal and they have much more voice in today's Canada's establishment than the silent majority of Sikhs who would like to stay with Hindus and other communities in peace and in the fashion of brotherhood.
But what is it that can be done? Because those who speak up, they are intimidated, Dr. Chothaiwale. What happens is there is social defaming them. Their wives, children, their pictures are put out there, and then they carry these kind of things. This happened in the UK, they've done it in Australia, they've done it in Canada. They intimidate them brazenly, ensure that their businesses suffer, they go and create certain troubles there. So why is all of this being allowed to, fly under the radar? What is it that Bharat can do, or is it up to Indo-Canadians itself to take matters in their own hand?
The primary responsibility is on the Canadian administration and Indo-Canadian community in Canada, because how much communication they do it with each other in a right way and also in a reasonable manner will depends on it. But the international conspiracy against India and the people who have vowed to propagate this narrative, they need to be isolated both by the government as well as by the society, so that they don't get tacit or explicit encouragement, and that will actually be a great help to resolve this issue.
Dr. Saab, I have one more question before I bring in Manish and also Puneet here. You said international conspiracy. Till now, this entire K2 agenda, Kashmir and this Khalistan, was supposed to be an ISI bogey that was floated by them post 1971, after Pakistan itself was split into Pakistan and Bangladesh. And they said badle ke liye they'll push this narrative. But now we see a very active Five Eyes involvement. Does that complicate matters? Does that lead us to believe that कोई है जो हमसे दोस्ती तो निभा रहा है, साथ साथ दुश्मनी भी निभा रहा है?
I think it does complicate the matter. I will also not put the entire communities in all the Western countries, the several countries which you have named like UK, Australia and US in the same bag or same bracket as that of Khalistani elements in Canada, because the fact that Canadian authorities are ignoring to its worst and supporting to this element, which is not the case in other countries. So there may be other law and order problems there also, but the administration has taken effective steps to nullify and to ensure that the future violence does not take place. Unfortunately, in Canada, these people have now they have become so bold, and they know that the administration will do, police authorities will do very little to prevent such kind of violent action, that has emboldened them. And to yesterday's violence in both the Hindu temples is the culmination of such a kind of emboldenment and tacit support of police and the Canadian administration.
Dr. Vijay Chauthaiwale, please stay on with us. I'll just bring in Manish and Puneet also with their comments, and then I'll come back to you, sir. Yes, Manish, there is a very clear call that's been given by a lot of Hindu Sangatans. They said that they are not going to allow any Canadian politician to step in and use their religious premises for any kind of political propaganda till there is action taken and an apology issued.
Yes, Anand, that is true. And the Hindu organizations are actually getting together. So are the Sikh organizations, as you mentioned, many Hindu Sikh organizations are actually realizing that being a silent majority is not going to help them anymore. And then they are starting to be very assertive. And that is the right way, actually. I agree with Dr. Chauthaiwale that the Indo-Canadian community, the Hindu and Sikh community has to start becoming assertive to make sure their voices and concerns are heard by the politicians at all levels. This 3 to 4%, Khalistani elements have actually created havoc in Canada. They are keeping everybody at disadvantage by defaming the community, by defaming Canada and the entire establishment. The challenge is that they have infiltrated the entire ecosystem, right from governments at all levels, media, ecosystem, including institutions, universities, and they are very, very aggressive. And so Hindus and Sikhs, who are, who have lived together all throughout in Canada as well as globally, they need to stop being politically correct, learn from what is happening elsewhere, and start asserting the right information, their identity, make demands, make sure our voices are heard, and go out to vote in large numbers. Because the Canadian politicians know that these small minority populations hold a lot of key states and a lot of key ridings in the political arena, and so they play to their tunes. So we need to be assertive. We need to make sure our voices are heard, and we need to make sure the politicians are starting to take decisive actions against these Khalistani activists.
Puneet Sahni, you're there far over in the United States, but no Sikh organization in the US, no Sikh organization in Bharat has come out and openly condemned this kind of action that is bringing Sikhi a bad name.
So, Dr. Chauthaiwale and Manish, I don't disagree with what they are saying, but I disagree how they are looking at it. Mr. Chauthaiwale is talking about goals, and Manish is very rightly talking about, what is happening. But वो इकबाल का शेर है, सुनी कायते अस्ती तो दरमियान से सुनी ना इब्तिदा की खबर है ना इंतहा मानू. Where did this nonsense stop from? So basically you are dealing with like a mafia type operation, and you are saying Sikhi Sanatan. I agree, and I present it, and I made it. But what SGPC is propagating is a bootleg version of Islam, and tomorrow all of them will be jihadis. You have to see what kind of nonsense is being spread in the gurdwaras, and what this government has done is basically, I don't doubt their intentions, but they have basically removed the blacklist. So you are dealing with a mafia type operation, and you study mafia anywhere. I'm in New York, mafia was here, mafia is in every country. What can an ordinary person do? But the government has to crack down and set a deterrent on criminals. And what this government, in its very fine intentions, has done has systematically removed the deterrent. So the deterrent to speak against Khalistanis has become exponentially more in the last 10 years. And the deterrent to, abuse India has basically taken by the government. I just want to give you a fact. And when the Khalistanis slaughtered thousands of Hindus in Punjab, Khalistanis displaced lakhs of Hindus in Punjab. But this is a fact, and I can give you the data. Do you know more Sikhs were killed, and I'm talking about civilians, more Sikhs were killed by Khalistanis in Punjab, civilians. And the people who crushed the Khalistanis, people who defeated the Khalistanis, they were almost overwhelmingly Sikhs. What the government has done by saying, something very bad happened to you, and they didn't apologize. You have given justification to these monsters. Whereas the Punjab policemen who showed, unspeakable courage and fought with suicidal patriotism, there is nobody to speak against them. You'll be surprised that this Punjab policemen reach out to me, that we have been completely abandoned and thrown to the dogs. I give you an example, Anand. I give you an example. So, every day you are saying Indian Army, great, and you salute, and of course I also salute the Indian Army. But just compare. The Babbar Khalsa is the one who did the plane bombing and was the biggest terrorist organization. In 1992 or 3, the day the Babbar Khalsa leader, his name was Sukhdev Babbar, do you know the Khalistanis killed 37 policemen and 63 of their family members? And still the Punjab police and the Sikhs, stood up to fought against this Khalistanis. What they have done by, like appeasing, this, they have basically justified the Khalistanis, and they have, desecrated the sacrifices of the Punjab police. This is actually the problem. And the other problem is, after this Kisan Andolan, these Khalistanis are not just in Canada. Because of social media, they have hijacked the SGPC. So now you say you should not take out, celebrate the assassins of, Mrs. Indira Gandhi. The first thing they say is, this is happening in SGPC. So how can you say us not to do it? If you have the guts, if you have the power, stop it in India, and you have no answer. Of the problem. You can just say, जी वो अच्छा सिला दिया तूने मेरे प्यार का, आप गाते रहिए. भाई बदमाश है, आपको बदमाश को डील करना आता कि नहीं आता? प्रॉब्लम तो सारी ये है.
But the point is that Canadian authorities have to deal with the badmash. But Dr. Vijay Chauthariwale, somewhere it rankles. Did Bharat take this problem quite lightly? We witnessed this, and this has been building up since 2020, 2021. Did we, as a nation, take this lightly? Should we have flagged this earlier? And can we take harder steps to ensure that foreign soil is not used for an anti-Bharat agenda?
See, I appreciate and I have empathy for the sentiments of Puneet Sahani ji, but the government has to look into the larger interest of every Indian citizen. As far as the anti-India sentiments abroad are going, there are a lot of subtle things happening. For example, the statement which you have said about the Hindu-Sikh joint statement about the peace and the harmony is one of many such attempts that have been made. Now the problem is quite deep-rooted and there is no easy solution, and therefore going only by the sentiments will not work. Each one of us will have to work very hard to bring these disgruntled elements, some of them back to mainstream, some of them needs to tell them what is wrong with their ideology, and there will be multiple such approaches. There is no single approach that is going to solve this issue, and I am very sure that the Prime Minister Modi and his government is doing everything whatever is in their hand to bring to, or at least isolate these extremist elements.
One of the things is even the opposition has backed out in Canada. Pierre Poilievre also cancelled the Diwali celebrations, and he is also not named these K extremists. Most of the netas haven't.
No, because of again the vote bank politics. Because it is vote bank politics and the money politics. Majority of these groups heavily fund both the political parties, and in many constituencies, because these people they vote in the large number, their votes determine who is going to win or lose by a few hundred votes, and everyone is scared of that. So unless as this silent majority comes up, as Savarwalji was saying, and become politically active, and they show their presence in a democratic fashion, these things will not change.
Manish, what are the Hindu groups going to do? We believe that there are going to be strong protests that are going to be lodged. Are there going to be some more concrete steps that are going to be taken?
Absolutely. So first of all, Vishwa Hindu Parishad in Canada is actually organizing a large protest today at the Mandir in Brampton, where this happened yesterday. And we are also pulling all organizations across Canada together as, coming on one platform. And I totally agree with Dr. Saab that the solution lies with the 1.5 million Hindu Canadians getting together and getting organized. This can be seen in Bangladesh, this can be seen in Pakistan, this can be seen in parts of India, everywhere, globally. If you are focused on just economic growth, more money, more growth, more, money and financial growth, it is not going to help you. If you are not politically active, if you are not assertive, if you are not getting your voices heard, if you are not asking politicians to do stuff for you and provide you a secure and safe home, then nobody is going to care for you. There will be only lip service. And this we should learn from examples across the world. And Hindu Canadians need to start getting active. And that is where, Anand, all organizations are coming together. We are having multiple discussions with large organizations, temples, to make sure we come on one platform and we are able to voice our concerns and make sure concrete, decisive steps are taken now. As Dr. Saab said, the red line has actually been crossed now with active violence against Hindu devotees at various mandirs.
Now, many are saying that this is also for the future generations. Do you believe, Puneet, that there must be active work on the soft side to correct this entire narrative which talks only post 1984? It tries to entirely erase, and there is this attempt at revisionism, that the Hindu Sikh history is started chronicled from 1984 onwards, not from the 14th, 15th century onwards.
Oh, you're absolutely right, Anand. And again, then it digresses into a problem, with the Jat community. And, basically they have tribalism. And, even in America, they had Peter and McCoy problem. And, in Haryana, you had, Balraj and Anup gang. So what they have is, blood feud. So the thing is, these Khalistanis who were defeated, and it was a basically Jat-Sikh civil war. On one side was Dharmic Jats under KPS Gill, and the other side were, this Khalistani dogs, puppets of the ISI. And what happened was, when they were completely defeated, and they were defeated by the Jat Sikhs in Punjab, they fled to Canada. And, they have a thing of blood feud. They are not interested in justice or secure anything. Mera bhai mara, main isko marunga. And this is, you have to understand the culture, because, I tell you, not a single guru was a Jat Sikh. But if you look at the list of all the biggest commanders, who were KCF, KLF, all of them were Jat. But again, the police who were fighting them was also Jat. So they just don't have any understanding of, what was the problem. And I'll give you an example. So for example, Amarinder Singh Bitta, you should interview him. He was the bravest voice against Khalistani terrorism. Yeah. So the people who bomb blast him, they have basically fled to Canada. Canada, they took refuge in Canada. They have become really rich. And, they are fighting the cases here. And Bitta has to fight with his own money and to the court cases. And there are people in the government who are saying, why don't you compromise? So this is the thing. All these people who have killed thousands of people, they are those who survived, they went to Canada, and all their families are in Canada. And that's why. And they from Canada are fighting a blood feud, and they want to kill you. And if they say they want to kill you, believe them. Don't act like what Dr. Chothaiwal is saying, this is the fundamental problem of the BJP. What Congress was with Pakistan, नहीं इनका दिल जीत लेंगे, ये हमारे भाई है, दोनों तरीके होने चाहिए. नहीं भाई, डेटरेंट है. अगर वो कह रहे हैं तुम्हें मारना चाहते हैं, उसकी बात मान लो. तुम अपना दिमाग मत लगाओ. यही बीजेपी की बेवकूफी है. हमको लगता है वो खालिस्तानी क्या कह रहे हैं, सुनो तो सही भाई. अगर तुम्हारे पास नहीं है, कोई पंजाबी ट्रांसलेटर ले लो, वो बोल क्या रहे हैं. उन्होंने before 1984 killings, this WSO, in their inaugural meeting, they said, we will not rest till we kill 50,000 Hindus. And they almost achieved it. And the person who stopped it was KPS Gill. Otherwise, they would have killed 50,000 Hindus.
Correct.
So believe what they are saying.
So you're saying that they are firm on their agenda and should not be taken lightly. Dr. Chothaiwale, please don't take what Puneet is saying as words to heart. He's just sentimentally overwhelmed, and that's why he's saying that what we're committing is wrong, that we should be aware of what the threat that they pose, and that's because is it going to reflect closer home? So if the problem started closer home, Dr. Chothaiwale, is the remedy also possible closer home? Can things be fixed closer home for us here in Punjab, so that the narrative is set right over on foreign soil? Is that possible?
See, I am not getting angry with Puneet ji. I fully empathize with his sentiments, but he can say, he has a freedom to say a lot of things which I don't have. Coming back to you, I believe that the Canadian problem is unique in its way. It has nothing to do, no, I will not say nothing to do, but it is significantly disconnected by the Sikh sentiments across the world, especially with that of India. And Canada, because of the so many factors like disconnect from India, a very high rate of unemployment or literacy, the drug trafficking, crime, political entitlement. There are so many factors that have accumulated in Canada, and it has become a kind of a perfect plot for the Khalistani movement. And today's result, we are seeing it, that they are not willing to listen to anyone. So eventually, and you have actually reported 2 days ago, the largest drug haul in Canada with $500 million cash, if I am not wrong, and another drugs worth another 500 million, unheard of anywhere. And who was that person? Again from the same elements.
Correct.
So Canada has a much larger problem than the rest of the world, including India, and I will not therefore try to connect and make 1 + 1 2. Canadian government and society has to think that how far they are going to tolerate these elements which are in a self-destruction mode.
Correct. I think that's something which we have been saying repeatedly to Canada, that these snakes in your own backyard will come back to bite you. Don't encourage them and don't think that you can try and control them. They will spiral out of control and it's going to be detrimental to the country. We've got a reaction from one of the volunteers or from one of the devotees at the temple. It's a lady who's spoken. Just let's listen to this.
तो यहाँ पर इंडियन कंसुलेट की ओर से लाइफ सर्टिफिकेट, जो ओल्ड पीपल होते हैं जो जिंदा है कि नहीं, वो लाइफ सर्टिफिकेट यहाँ देना था रिटायरमेंट लोगों का। तो मेरी ड्यूटी लगी थी, जब मैं आई 12 बजे, तो यहाँ पर 4 बंदे हमारे प्रोटेस्ट कर रहे थे। खालिस्तानी बहुत ज़्यादा आगे हुए। कितने बजे? करीब 12 बजे। 12 बजे जब मैं आई तो वो लोग 11 बजे से आगे हुए। उन्होंने हमारे पे लाठी चार्ज किया खालिस्तानी लोगों ने। मेरे पास सारी वीडियो है, हमें भागना पड़ा वहाँ से, मुझे भी मारा। 2-3 पुलिस वाले थे, उन्होंने हमें लाठी से मारा। पुलिस वालों ने लाठी से हमें मारा। मेरे पास वीडियो है। बहुत गंदे से हिंदुओं के साथ बिहेव किया।
तो वो जो खालिस्तानी जो अटैक कर रहे थे उनको कुछ नहीं बोला उन्होंने? कुछ
भी नहीं बोल रहे थे। हम बार-बार और दूसरी बात, चलो आ भी गए वो लोग, हम बार-बार उनको आराम से कह रहे थे कि आप लोग, पुलिस वालों को कह रही थी, आप लोग उनको बोलो कि चले जाए। वो बोलते नहीं, हम नहीं कह सकते।
So they can't tell these goons to get out of a temple where they are supposed to have got permission only for peaceful protest, but they have raised the lathis and beaten up the members who are there for this entire consular camp. Dr. Saab, you're saying something? Final words, sir. I've got to wind up after this. That's what the lady is saying.
I guess it's a very tragic and a very honest statement by this lady, and I appreciate her courage to come on the camera and tell her story. There are many such videos that have come to me also, and every video makes you more painful and at the same time more angry about what's happening in Canada. We can just hope that the better sense will prevail within the Canadian police and Canadian government. It is their primary responsibility to protect Hindu in that country, Hindu temples, Hindu institutions and Hindu lives. And in this case at least they have miserably failed Therefore, as I told you in the beginning, that simple condemnation of this attack is not enough. It is the action of against who has perpetrated this crime will determine the sincerity of Trudeau government.
Yes, Puneet, I have to wind up. Yes.
Last sentence. So, I've been coming on Anand's show for 2 years, and I would request, please go back and you can judge, what I was saying 2 years ago is like coming true or not. So I may have spoken with a lot of passion, but I was not emotional. I spoke on facts and, with full rationality. So if I've offended somebody, I apologize, but please go back and gauge for yourself.
No, you've not been. And that's the reason why I totally understand where you're coming from. It's frustrating because there are so many people who have come out and said over the last 2-3 years ki ye hone wala hai, we should preempt it, we should not allow this to happen. But it's come to pass. But some things have to happen for people to realize and society to realize and perhaps nations and communities to realize what these people and what their real agenda is. And we will continue to expose them and work against their machinations. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you very, very much for your time and appreciate your thoughts and views. But before we wind up, ladies and gentlemen, and take a break, here's what it is. On the right stand, we've thrown light and we'll continue to attempt to throw light on the Sanatan connection with Sikhi and how Sikhi is rooted in Sanatan ways and about the Hindu way of life here in Hindustan. Now, try and understand. First up, we'll call out this agenda of the K-goons. They have a map which only wants to divide Bharat. It's got nothing to do with the Punjab or the Khalsa rule or the land for Khalsas, because their map does not talk about the actual Sikh empire of Raja Ranjit Singh, because they forget Nankana Sahib, Kartarpur Sahib, Punjab Sahib, and also the entire land that is Punjab in Pakistan. It's not part of their map. So if you superimpose this, this is what it is. The Sikh empire in 1839 under Raja Ranjit Singh includes everything which is outside of this Khalistan demand. This is where they are demanding. And this is all sovereign Bharatiya territory. But all of this land which is into now Chinese occupied territory or Tibet and also Gilgit-Baltistan and also Pakistan occupied territory, some parts of Afghanistan, none of this is part of their demands. So we expose them that this is nothing but a secessionist agenda that wants parts of Himachal Pradesh, Uttar Pradesh, Uttarakhand and Haryana. The other thing, the flag of Maharaja Ranjit Singh, his army depicts, let's look at the flag, depicts right at the center Goddess Chandi with Lord Bhairav on the left and also Lord Hanuman on the right. Now this is the picture. Now have a look at this. This is the flag of Raja Ranjit Singh Ji. The Sikh warriors use symbols of Hinduism before warfare. And here's where the K-Bogi spews venom against Hindu Astha and says Hinduism and Sikhi are two separate entities altogether. They have no connection with each other. It's false. Look at this. Hanuman, that's Bajrang Bali, and on the other side it's Shivji, and in between it's the goddess herself, Chandi. The Brahma Kavach in the Dasam Granth of Guru Gobind Singh Ji says, you are the goddess of creation. You are Lakshmi and Vishnu's power. You are of Shiva himself, the Shakti of Shakta. This mantra invoking Hindu gods was supposed to be read 32 times daily as per the Dasam Granth for fearlessness, protection, fortune, wealth and protection overall. And this was perhaps supposed to be part of the what concerns the double-edged sword of the Sikhs and the power where it comes from. That's the source, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to take a very short break. When we come back, it's a very strong letter that's been penned by Captain Amarinder Singh. We'll start with that when we're back. Stay with us.
It has to do with a little bit of intelligence, and I have a piece of glass over here, and I don't have a piece of glass there, and I have this piece of glass here, but all we have really over here is the fake news, right? And to get me, somebody would have to shoot through the fake news. And I don't mind that so much, 'cause I don't mind that. So I have a piece of glass here. And the problem with that glass is I don't look great on television when you have a 4-inch piece of glass that a howitzer can't go through. No, when you see yourself on television, you say, boy, you're really not very recognizable, to be honest with you, which is good. But here's the problem. So I have glass here, I have glass here. Now, I'm not worried about this. Look, what do I have? A couple of people. And they're friends, generally. There are a couple of people I don't like in that group.
Captain Amarinder has slammed Justin Trudeau. He said Justin Trudeau violated sanctity of the parliament. I'm just going to call out the letter that's put out on X by Captain Amarinder Singh, and I'm going to read this letter, ladies and gentlemen. It is not often that countries, friends for decades, should end up, as have Canada and India today. The assassination of a person of extreme separatist views, Hardeep Singh Nijjar, led to the Prime Minister of Canada, Justin Trudeau, pointing his finger in a parliamentary statement towards India as being responsible for this act. He later stated that he didn't have concrete evidence, but that fingers pointed in that direction. This itself is a violation of the sanctity of Parliament, where a prime ministerial statement is taken as truth and nothing but the truth. I've got the letter in my hand. I'm going to check if you can just show this here. Nothing but the truth. Are electoral compulsions more important than decades-old relationships, national commitments and age-old parliamentary traditions? For Trudeau, it seems so. Some years ago, when I was Chief Minister of Punjab, I was aware of Canada's approach to Sikh extremism being prevalent in that country, which was fast growing, to which Trudeau not only turned a blind eye, but also patronized such people to enhance his political base. He sent a defense minister, a Sikh, to Punjab. This is the letter that has come. This is on Captain Amarinder's post. I'm just going to read it here, ladies and gentlemen. It says, and further, he says he sent a defense minister, a Sikh, to Punjab. I refused to meet him as he himself was an active member of the World Sikh Organization. At that time, the parent body of Khalistan movement, which was then presided over by none other than his father. That's what he said. And then I'm going to read the next page. The next page says, some months later, Trudeau visited Punjab and refused to meet me till he was told in no uncertain terms by the then External Affairs Minister Sushma Swaraj that if he did not meet the Chief Minister, he could not visit the state. We met in Amritsar. He was accompanied by his Defence Minister Sajjan. I presume an attempt to get one up on me. I told him in no uncertain terms of Punjab's problems with Canada. It had become a haven of the Khalistani separatist movement, which no Punjabi wanted, and also of gun running, drugs and gangsters. I handed him a list over 20 leading individuals who were actively involved in this movement. Some were also members of his cabinet, one of whom was sitting beside him. I was promised that he would look into these grievances. On the contrary, since our meeting, these nefarious activities have grown. The Kanishk bombing is now out of his mind, and so are the other acts that continue to destabilize Punjab. Our economy continues to stagnate, as industry always enters when it visualizes peace and stability. On the contrary, today gangsters are prevalent, weapons are freely used, agriculture is becoming non-profitable as input prices of fertilizers, oil and other essentials are becoming prohibitive. The minimum support price increases marginally on an annual basis. The reason is, further he says, reason is obvious. The purchase by the FCI is meant for food security and an affordable price that the underprivileged of the country can afford. If the MSP goes up, so does the consumer price to the millions of our poor. While the Punjab farmer who sweats his guts out to produce what India needs wants more for his crop, so does the union government wants to rationalize what it must pay. India would need substantial financial resources to guarantee an MSP. Can it afford it? What is then the option? Industrialization for one, and the right environment in Punjab to draw in industry. Some countries that permit a separatist movement to exist in their jurisdiction are keeping such movements in check. But in the case of Canada, a government that patronizes a terrorist or a separatist movement for political gain is irresponsible and to a point criminal. There is a strong perception that Trudeau is using Punjabis to sustain his government without realizing that decline in his affinity with them is in his own country and even in India. Fortunately, Trudeau's Canada is the singular example as of date to turn the spotlight away from himself, his severing of diplomatic ties by initially accusing our security agencies of engineering Nijjar's assassination, then naming officers who he claims were responsible. Then he says, last page. Then he comes to accuse the National Security Advisor, and finally he now points fingers at India's Minister of Home Affairs, Mr. Amit Shah. Time, they say, is a healer. In Trudeau's case, time will tell next year when he goes to the polls. From what one hears, his luck has run out and these are his last few months. Let us hope that those media reports are true. We need better relations with Canada, and one ambitious man shouldn't be able to rock a stable friendship that has existed for decades. Punjab and India as a whole could then look towards a bright and stable future. Strong words coming in from the former Chief Minister of Punjab, Captain Amarinder Singh, who says he had flagged off these Sikh extremists and their activities at the time when Justin Trudeau had visited Bharat, and in fact even before that. So since 2018, these concerns have been raised. Since 2022, things have gone haywire in Canada. We're going to move on quickly and get you big update from Karnataka, ladies and gentlemen, in the Muda case. The Lokayukta has issued summons for Chief Minister Siddaramaiah to appear before him. The Lokayukta has issued a notice. The CM has been asked to appear before the Lokayukta on the 6th of November at 10:30 a.m. He will appear before SP Udesh. Karnataka CM has said, yes, Mysore Lokayukta has issued a notice regarding Muda. I will go to Mysore Lokayukta on the 6th of November. Sudat Bhardwaj joining us with more details. Yes, Sudat.
So yes, actually this comes just a week after Parvati Siddaramaiah, his wife, was called into questioning by the Lokayukta. She's the A2, the accused 2 in the case, and A3 and A4, that is Mallikarjuna Swamy, the brother-in-law of CM Siddaramaiah, and Devaraju, the original owner of the land in Muda, have all been called into questioning already. So now this is a big escalation. The CM has been called into questioning. He will appear before the SP Udesh on 10:30 a.m. at 6th November. So this is a major move, and this comes at a time when already ED raids are also happening. The central agency has also been probing this case. ED raids took place in Mysore's Muda office, the Taluk office, and in Bengaluru as well, at Devaraju's house. So he's also been named in the ECIR as one of the 4 accused. So right now the Lokayukta has taken the first move and has called the CM for questioning.
Thank you for your inputs, Sudat. Short break here on the right stand. When we come back, it happened in September on foreign soil, but it's come to light now. The video is here. Did the Mizoram CM take an anti-Bharat stance on foreign soil? Stay with us.
This Diwali,
It has to do with a little bit of intelligence, and I have a piece of glass over here, and I don't have a piece of glass there, and I have this piece of glass here, but all we have really over here is the fake news, right? And to get me, somebody would have to shoot through the fake news. And I don't mind that so much, because I don't mind that. So I have a piece of glass here. And the problem with that glass is I don't look great on television when you have a 4-inch piece of glass that a howitzer can't go through. No, when you see yourself on television, you say, boy, you're really not very recognizable, to be honest with you, which is good. But here's the problem. So I have glass here, I have glass here. Now, I'm not worried about this. Look, what do I have? A couple of people. And they're friends, generally. There are a couple of people I don't like in that group, but that's like, no, but look at it. Look at it. I have nobody here. What do I need this piece? But where I think I do need a piece is here. What the hell do I know? I must be wrong. I must be wrong. Probably it was probably Biden or the other one that.
As far as we are concerned, we shall never ever accept division of our people into three countries. On foreign soil in September, this is what the Mizoram Chief Minister said. He went on to say that we have been unjustly divided, forced to exist under three different governments in three different countries, and this is something we can never accept. Mizoram Chief Minister's speech in US in September that went viral on social media has sparked fresh controversy. He is openly calling for the unity of the Zo, Chin, Kuki and Mizo communities spread across Bharat, Myanmar and Bangladesh based on ethnic and religious lines. The development comes amid ethnic tension between the Meitei and Kuki communities in neighbouring Manipur, the Chin fighting there in Myanmar against the military junta, and Mizoram Chief Minister Lalduhoma calling upon the Zo people to unite based on religion and prevent further division. Now, his statement, which says we cannot tolerate living and being separated by three countries, points in the direction of what Sheikh Hasina had warned before her ouster. She had said that there are conspiracies on and there is a bid to carve out a new country out of Bangladesh, which has portions of Bangladesh, that is Chittagong, and like East Timor, carve it out of the country's neighborhood. If you look at the Kuki claims and their propaganda of Kuki land, it also talks about Mizoram, Manipur, Chin area in Myanmar and also Chattogram and this region in Bangladesh. Now, she had said it's a West plot. The white man came and said that this is what they will do, carve out a separate country, taking parts of Chattogram and Myanmar and also Bharat along with a base in the Bay of Bengal, for a base in Bay of Bengal. The questions that come out is the Mizoram Chief Minister's speech on foreign soil clear proof of the West plot to divide Bharat? And does the Mizoram Chief Minister's separate nationhood cannot afford to be living in three countries, will not tolerate this? Is it a clear proof of what Sheikh Hasina had warned? Professor Brahma Chalani and Dr. Ankita Datta with us. Let's just play out portion of that video that's now surfaced.
It's just like a two-way traffic. As far as we are concerned, we shall never ever accept the division of our people into three countries. This will never be acceptable. And the boundaries are imposed boundaries by the British government. In that committee, we are never represented. We are never consulted. Therefore, it is an imposed boundary. We'll never accept it. We will never accept construction of boundary fencing in between us.
Well, before we go back to Lalduhoma and what happened in Mizoram, PM Modi has just tweeted and he has said, I strongly condemn the deliberate attack on a Hindu temple in Canada. Equally appalling are the cowardly attempts to intimidate our diplomats. Such acts of violence will never weaken India's resolve. We expect the Canadian government to ensure justice and uphold the rule of law. So PM Modi has just tweeted, this is what I am putting out here. Okay, let me just hold it properly. There you go. This is what he said. He says, I strongly condemn the deliberate attack on the Hindu temple in Canada. Equally appalling are the cowardly attempts to intimidate our diplomats. Such acts of violence will never weaken India's resolve. We expect the Canadian government to ensure justice and uphold the rule of law. Let's just come out of that, please, and go across to Professor Brahmachalani and Dr. Ankita Datta. So two big incidents that have happened. Professor Brahmachalani, on Canada and also Mizoram, sir.
First on Canada.
Ji.
Trudeau has personally led the charge against India since September last year, when he stood up in Parliament and made an allegation which he now admits was based not on hard evidence but on raw intelligence. But Modi, by contrast, has been quiet. He has not spoken up. So finally, he has broken his silence and spoken up, because after all, what we are seeing is that the US and Canada are constantly pushing India, and India is thus being forced to react. So I'm glad that Prime Minister Modi has spoken up. On the other issue of Mizoram, Anand, I think that's a very concerning issue, because what the Chief Minister is saying is that the Chincoki Zo people, he said, are one people and one nation that today have to live under three separate governments, and that eventually they'll be unified under one government. So by echoing what Sheikh Hasina had said before she was toppled, he has given credence to the notion that some elements in the West are seeking to carve out a Christian state out of Myanmar, India, and Bangladesh. So certainly his statement, that statement of an Indian state chief minister on American soil, that statement should be treated with serious concern by the Indian Home Ministry and the Indian government more largely.
True. Dr. Ankita Datta, reaction on Canada, and then thereafter on Lal Duhoma, please.
Yeah, so Lal Duhoma, this is definitely a matter of serious concern. The chief minister of a state delivering an official speech in America, expressing his desire to create a separate Christian country, including parts of Bharat like Manipur, Assam and Tripura, as well as Bangladesh and Myanmar, is a serious concern for India's national security. And now, if we recall, this same chief minister, Lal Duhoma, soon after he assumed charge last year, after the elections, after the Mizoram Assembly elections, he had said on record to External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar in their very first meeting in New Delhi, just a day after the Indian government decided to scrap the free movement regime, or FMR. He said that he categorically mentioned that any move by the government of India to fence the present international border with Myanmar is unacceptable to the Mizos. He also emphasized that, putting an end to this FMR without approving the border created by the British that divided the ethnic Mizos and their fellow tribes is unacceptable. And immediately thereafter, the Chincookis had stepped up their demand for the unification of the Zopate. Zopate is the Kuki-Chin Mizo language-speaking tribe living in India and Myanmar for the creation of a separate administration. And see, as long as such positions are maintained at an official level, like that of the Chief Minister of a state, peace is a distant dream for the Northeast. And we need to understand this in the context of the demographic upheaval in Manipur as a result of the abnormal...
We'll take this up in detail on Tuesday, but quickly a word on the Prime Minister also stepping up to condemn the attacks in Canada, Dr. Ankita Datta. Do you believe this is perhaps timely, and the call is now that Indo-Canadians want to unite against this kind of extremism?
Yes, definitely, certainly, and the comments by the Chief Minister of Mizoram, they come simultaneously. So, from the perspective of India's national security, peace and stability, which is not possible in any state, in any country, when one community is always unwilling to respect the national boundaries and is always insistent upon killing people from any other community outside of their ethnicity, destroying their religious places of worship, and also at the same time, sheltering refugees from their kith and kin without the state's consent. So,
True, and an interesting perspective which we'll take forward. I've run out of time because we've got plenty of news coming through. The fact is that from our western borders, they are attempting to sabotage and create secessionist agendas, and even in the northeast, it's a similar agenda that is being created, all on religious lines, by trying to figure out fault lines and create fault lines there between religions and faiths and communities, and that's a serious threat that we need to look from a holistic perspective. We'll have a longer, larger discussion on this, but have to wind up for the moment. Thank you very much, Professor Brahmachalani and Dr. Ankita Datta. Winding up the right stand on that note. Good evening, or should I say good morning to you, live from Washington, D.C. in this special edition of the Race for the White House. I'm Zaka Jacob, coming to you live from the lawns outside the U.S. Capitol building. And this is where all the action is going to be after tomorrow, because tomorrow is election day, less than 24 hours to go, and America decides its future for the next 4 years. And the choice could not have been more stark. You have the incumbent Vice President Kamala Harris hoping to make history. If she wins, she will become the first ever woman president of the United States. On the other hand, from the Republican Party, you have former President Donald Trump, who of course believes this country is broken, this country's economy is broken, and he is the man to fix it. Who will America choose between these two very, very contrasting figures? And it's not just their personalities, their politics, their policies couldn't be more stark. It's a choice that more than 150 million plus Americans